All right, this is Geometry, Lesson 7-2, Midpoint Formula. Today's date is Monday, March 30th, 2020. Our objective today is to find the coordinates of the middle of a line segment. All right, so essentially it boils down to just taking the average. So first, let's practice taking the average. If I have two numbers, A and B, then the average of those, you should definitely pause the video because you should know this. You add them and then divide by the total number of numbers, I guess. So I have divide by 2 in this case. So I do A plus B divided by 2. And you're always going to have 2 points because we're doing a line segment. A line segment is always defined by 2 points, never 3. So you'll never have to do A plus B plus C divided by 3. That would be another way of doing the average of 3 numbers. Anyway, that's our general formula. So like if I was practicing, what's the average of -1 and 5? Well, I would plug it into my formula. I'd say -1 plus 5 divided by 2, and that's equal to, that's an equal to button. There is an equal to 4 over 2, which is equal to 2. So 2 is the average between -1 and 5. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the formula that we're supposed to be using today because we're talking about a line, not just 2 numbers. So the x-coordinate of the midpoint is and then the key thing here, the big takeaway from all of today's lesson is it's the average. And I can't spell average, average of the x-coordinates of the 2 points. And on the flip side of that, in order to find, because now once you find that, done, we found the x-coordinate of the midpoint, but now I need the y-coordinate of the midpoint. So in order to find the y-coordinate of the midpoint, you're going to be taking the average, again, of the y-coordinates of those 2 points. And then done, you have your x and y coordinate of your middle of the line segment. So here's the formula that you might see in textbooks, but I think this is just perfect. Like as long as you know how to do averages, which you now know because it's up here, then you're ready to go. But here is the formula. So you can say your midpoint is equal to these 2 coordinates. The first coordinate, I might need more room here, so let me leave that open. The first is x1 plus x2, all of this divided by 2. And this is saying the x-coordinate of the first point plus the x-coordinate of the second point. It doesn't matter which point you choose to be their first point, second point, it'll still be the same. It's the commutative property of addition. And then comma, your y-coordinate is going to be your y1 plus your y2, all of that divided by 2. So if you really like formulas, just memorize this. But I think the best thing is just to remember, hey, just find the average of the x-coordinates, average of the y-coordinates, done. Let's try an example. 2 examples and we're done. So first example, I gave you 2 points. Sometimes they'll give you a line. Sometimes they'll give you 2 points. Sometimes they'll just give you 2 points with no graph at all. So this one I'm giving you it with a graph. So I'm going to start by labeling the coordinates of A and B. The coordinates of A, I go -3 in the x and +5 in the y. So it's going to be -3, 5. And for the coordinates for B, we go 2 right, so it's going to be 2, and then up 3, so 2, 3. Now that we have the coordinates, let's go ahead and take the average of the x's and the average of the y's. So I'll say the average x. Let's work on that. So again, x coordinates, let's do that in yellow. Maybe I should change this to, I guess it's orange really. Let's change this to orange. So I'm doing 2 and -3. What is the average of 2 and -3? Well, I do 2 plus -3. Again, it doesn't matter the order that you add them. Just add those 2 together, divide by 2, and you get your answer. Go ahead and simplify this. 2 and -3 adds to -1, so -1/2. Or you can think of this as the decimal, -0.5. Either are completely fine. Now let's do the average of the y's. So the average for the y's, again, this in green now, so 3 and 5 are the y coordinates. And you can even see, like, in terms of this height and this height, what's the average? That height. Visually, it's very easy to see. So the answer is 4, but let's check it with our formula. So I'm going to do 3, and then I'm going to add 5, the 2 y coordinates, and then divide by 2. So 3 plus 5 is 8 divided by 2, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that makes sense with our height that we found up here. And then we write our final answer with our coordinates of our midpoint. Our coordinates are the x first, so -0.5, 4. And then box it. That's our final answer. Let's try it with no graph. So if I just gave you 2 points like this, again, it's going to be the average x and the average y. So let's first find the average x. And I guess to be consistent with my color coding, I will make this orange as well, just like the last problem. So the average x is going to be adding the 3 and the 4, because it always goes x, y, right, for our coordinates. So the average for the x is going to be 3 plus 4, all of this divided by 2. And 3 plus 4 is 7. Still divided by 2, and then 7 divided by 2 is a simplified fraction, but I can go ahead and turn this into a decimal. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. All right, halfway done. Now I need to find the average for the y. So the average of the y coordinates. Again, add together y coordinates. -8 and 1, add to -7. I'll go ahead and write out my work. -8 plus that 1. These are still divided by 2. This is going to equal -7 divided by 2, which is going to be -3.5. And just writing those together, so the answer is going to be 3.5 comma -3.5. And that's our final answer. All right, that concludes notes 7-2 for geometry. I'll see you guys tomorrow.